Reading is so in for 2025. We're so back. This winter, I have been on a huge reading kick and it has felt so great to be reading again and tearing through books at my slow reading pace. Last year's reading goal was 30 books and I actually surpassed it by reading 31. And truly, I think that the last 10 of them were all read in November and December. I really hope that my enthusiasm will stick throughout the year, but I also know that there are times where kind of your energy and availability waxes and wanes, and so I might not be coursing through books at quite the same pace that I have been these last few months. So when it came to setting reading goals for the year and what I wanted to get out of what I was reading, I am trying to be a bit more generous and pick things that are sustainable. So as far as the number of books I'm trying to read, I think, when I'm getting all excited about reading again, I'm like, I should try to read 50 books, 60 books, 100 books in a year. And maybe one day my life will be shaped in such a way where that makes sense, but right now with a full-time job and other hobbies and relationships I want to maintain, it's kind of not very realistic. And I think what I would value more in reading, what I would feel more proud of than the quantity of books that I read, is just that my reading habit doesn't wither and die for 3 months during my summertime sadness, and that there's something kind of always in rotation. So my goal this year, I think, is 35 books, just to be a little bit ambitious. But more than anything, I think my reading goal is not so much a number, but just I would always like to have a book in rotation, something that when I want to read, I can grab it because I'm already in the midst of a story, even if I'm reading it slowly, even if I put it down for a week because I got busy with something else or I was excited about something I was working on and wanted to devote more time to that. I want to allow myself to be flexible, but use my 35 books goal number more as just a way to help me keep reading and prioritizing that in my line of focus. And then the only other sort of reading goal that I have, but this I think will apply more broadly to just the media I consume and things I research, things I get interested in, is I just want to give myself permission to slow down with the things that I'm really enjoying and really spend time with them and kind of having my own experience, discoursing with them. I think, and maybe this is a social media has influenced my brain, maybe it's a capitalism has influenced my brain thing, but I feel there's a feeling of you always need to go, and you always need to be producing more, doing more, optimizing, and in the process of that, I think the pace at which we do things becomes of the utmost importance. And I think sometimes when we're trying to just go for speed or go for quantity, when you have 100 books, so it's you just have to go and read the next one and the next one, it dilutes our opportunity to really get the most out of the things that we enjoy because we feel we have to put them away and move on so quickly to the next thing. And I've definitely felt that pressure myself and not really allowed myself to spend time and linger in the stuff that I'm really enjoying, to dive deeper with it, to learn more about the people who made it or the history behind this project and all that went into it, or works that were inspired by it, and kind of go off on this little path that opened up to me that I wouldn't have known was there if I was just finished a book I loved and then was okay, well now I have to start a new one right away. Again, this I think applies more broadly, a goal beyond just reading, but it is something I want to do more, just spending more time when I want to. I don't have to do this for books that I'm whatever about, but for things that I really enjoy, I think it will be a very delicious and delightful approach to enjoying them. Those are kind of my reading goals for the year. Pretty humble, I think, but hopefully will make reading and media consuming more broadly a lot more enriching. Jumpstarting the year with these intentions in mind, I wanted to spend a bookish day with myself. I went to a really, really lovely used bookstore in Greenpoint called Leaves, which I'd never been to before, but I would absolutely go again. I was very like impressed by the selection, and I feel like there was like a handful of classics and books I've seen and heard of, but also lots of titles that I had never come across before. And I just feel like it's the kind of store where you could walk in not really knowing what you want and come out with a book that you've never heard of that you're really excited to read. And like, I feel like you can always find like little gems is the feeling I got from being in there. And so I'm definitely gonna go back. But yeah, I got a few books that I'm gonna talk about briefly. Most of these, I will just drop them. Most of these I don't know that much about because I kind of like to go in blind, but I have 5 books here. The bookseller did say this was a great selection, so I'm feeling incredibly validated. The first book I got, which I genuinely don't really know anything about, is The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. This will be my first Toni Morrison. The bookseller said this was like, I think one of Toni Morrison's first books, and it was when she was like younger and her most radical, is how he framed it to me. It's about a young Black girl who's like praying every day for, I think, the kind of like hegemonic Eurocentric version of beauty that a lot of us are indoctrinated into thinking that we should be and should want. And I guess the book kind of explores how that dream evolves and disintegrates and how she confronts that. So I'm very excited to begin my Toni Morrison journey. The next book is from an author I've truly never heard of before called Mary Wesley. It's the book An Imaginative Experience. I'll read you the little blurb on the back. Julie Piper leaps from a London train to save a sheep stranded near the tracks. As the other passengers look on in horror and embarrassment, Sylvester Wykes sees in the woman's face the anguish of loss, and he is captivated. From this chance intersection of 2 very different lives emerges a powerfully moving, witty, and spirited love story, rich in character and full of wisdom. An Imaginative Experience is a novel of the heart's pain and deliverance. If that doesn't sound intriguing to you, then we probably don't like the same books. This should be an interesting read, and it's nice and short, so I think maybe it'll be a good one to go to when I feel like I'm in a reading slump and I just need something to kind of like bolster me along. Another shorty I got is from this Romanian author whose name I'm certainly gonna butcher, Dumitru. Oh no, guys. I'm not even gonna try. I'm stopping there. But it's a novel to read on the train. That alone was intriguing to me because I'm like, well, is that not just what I do all the fucking time here? And yeah, I pretty much didn't need anything else but that. But yes, this is by a Romanian writer who is seen as one of the most inventive from the country. This story is about a director who's trying to adapt a short story that he wrote into a film. And basically, like, it sounds like everything goes wrong. Like, everything that could go wrong goes wrong. And, you know, we're still trying to move forward even though shit's hitting the fan, basically. And it's another nice shorty, so should be good to get through when I'm feeling a bit like I can't handle a hefty novel. Or if I do decide suddenly that I care really deeply about hitting my reading goal and it's the end of the year and I accidentally stopped reading for like 3 months and then I need to catch up by like 8 books, then I might turn to this. The next book I got is Richard Russo's Empire Falls, and I just read Straight Man. It was one of my last reads of 2024 and one of my favorites. It was so good. I was not expecting it at all. I'd never heard of Richard Russo. I think I picked up that book in one of my Chicago visits, like probably a couple years ago, because I'm one of those people that like buys books and then doesn't read them for a while because I'm a freak. And I finally, it was just like calling to me on my bookshelf, so I finally decided to pick it up and it was so good. It was, I think, so clever and like sharply written, and like Richard Russo really knows how to kind of keep the plot going, keep the story going without feeling like you're rushing and without feeling like you're dragging. I felt like every moment in the book was like we stayed there for the perfect amount of time. And it was another one of those books where I'm just like, I cannot believe like the choices that our main character is making. He's like the straight man in the sense of like he's the foil to every situation, and like he's very kind of like, you know, can't really be sincere a lot of the time, so he's always finding like the joke in the situation. And like just some of what he says and the decisions he makes, I'm like, this man, like if he existed in real life, I would hate him, but also I would probably want to sleep with him. Reading him in the book and it being inside of his mind and watching how the situations in the book unfold through his viewpoint, it was thoroughly entertaining, and it really endeared me to Richard Russo, who like his novels are not like for the faint of heart. Like, look how thin and small this text is. Like, these pages are dense with words, and I enjoyed every minute of it. So I decided to check out his Pulitzer Prize winning novel, Empire Falls, which I don't know if this is true or not, but I just feel like it was made into a movie. I don't know, just it looks like it. I will fact check that and let you know. But I'm definitely like a read the book, read the source material before seeing the movie adaptation girl. So if such a thing exists, I'm excited to read this and then watch the movie and probably feel disappointed because it doesn't feel as good as the book was, that in the story, the version of it that I was imagining in my mind. But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to reading this, and this might be one of the first books I pick up this year that's not a library book, which I have a lot of, and I will talk about one of them soon. And then the last book I got is Dracula. And this version of Dracula, it's interesting because it has these like images or illustrations throughout that were done by an artist. I'll include his name on the screen. I don't know it off the top of my head, but he takes like a moment from every chapter and illustrates it. And so you have this like more extensive world building for the story, and it was just kind of beautiful. And I feel like, I don't know if I wouldn't say it's a rare find, but it's just a cool find and makes me extra excited to read it. I'm like now obsessed with the idea of learning more about vampires and reading like famous vampire novels and stuff ever since watching Nosferatu, which I really loved and talked about a little in my last video. And yeah, it just made me really want to go back to the unofficial source material because I've never ever read Dracula. And I also know that there's like a podcast that they like do an episode per like chapter or kind of like, you know, diary entry letter in this book. And I'm like, maybe if I really want to build the atmosphere, like turn the lights kind of low and I'll put on that podcast and like listen while I read along and make it like a whole experience like I'm trying to do. And I'm really looking forward to that. So I was super stoked to get my hands on this. So that's my haul. And yeah, I have a lot of library books to get through as well. I've been reading Worry, which I'm enjoying. It took me a while to get into the voice of the author, but I realized what it is that reading this book feels like watching one long scene of girls, like a long character interaction between those types of characters who you like, you know, they're kind of awful, but you like come to really love and care for them. And that's how it feels encountering the characters in this book. But I am really enjoying it. It's very funny, and I'm gonna finish it soon and then probably go through some other library books. And maybe I'll do a library book haul one of these days, because that's really where I be. If I'm not at a used bookstore, you can guarantee I'm picking up holds from the library. And that's what's getting me excited about reading in this new year. And I am just so happy to be feeling like a little reader again. It is one of life's simplest and truest joys.